Okay, so just starting anywhere, I say angle 42 degrees right here, which intercepts arc LS. So inscribed angle is half of the intercepted arc. And then I see that angle labeled C is also an inscribed angle, which cuts off 84. So half of 84 degrees is 42 degrees. Then using this triangle, I know that a triangle has 180 degrees total. So I just do 180 minus 90 minus 42. That leaves 48 degrees. Now I can use vertical angles. Vertical angles are congruent, so E is also 48 degrees. And then I can use supplementary angles on a straight line. So 180 minus 42 means 138 degrees. Oops, sorry, 130. That's not right. Sorry, 132 degrees. Okay, so then using this triangle now, 180 minus 42 minus 48. Okay, 90 degrees for angle B. And let's see what else. So we've got a quadrilateral here, LKMZ, which I know all four-sided shapes have a total of 360 degrees. Okay, so I'll take away the 90, take away the 68, take away this other 90, and then this angle got split into two, so I'll take away the 42 piece, which leaves 70 degrees for the remaining part. Okay, and then A, when two tangents both originate from the same point, the tangents are equal in length. Okay, so measure of LZM. Well, let's see, I need this arc, and I need this arc. Well, it might be better to go the other direction. So this arc over here, LKM, is intercepted by the 68-degree angle, the inscribed angle. So the inscribed angle is half of the intercepted arc, so LKM is double 68, which is 136. Okay, so then the rest of the circle, LZM, will be the full 360 minus the 136. Okay, so that leaves 224 degrees. Okay, so let's see what else. Now they want the length in centimeters of LZM. Okay, well we've got the angle measure, so now we need the radius. Okay, so let's see. We're given that circumference of circle Q is 32 pi centimeters. And we know circumference is equal to 2 pi r. So if we divide both sides by 2 pi, we get r equals 16. Okay, so the radius is 16. Well, for this part we actually want the circumference again, right? Because the full circumference would have been 32 pi. But how much of the circle do we have? We have 224 degrees out of the full 360 degrees. Okay, so let's simplify that. Okay, so looks like 19.91 repeating. And then don't forget the pi. And since it's a length, the units are centimeters. Okay, so how about KLZ? Okay, so we're gonna need to figure out how much SZ is, and also KL. Or it'd be better to go the other way. So we can do KMZ. Okay, because KMZ is intercepted by B, which is 90. So KMZ is 180. So the other way, KLZ will then also be 180. Okay, so again, the full circumference would be 32 pi, and this time we're using up 180 degrees out of the full 360. So this time this reduces nicely. 32 pi times a half would be 16 pi centimeters. And finally, the area of circle Q, so now is when we need to know the radius is 16. So pi r squared becomes pi 16 squared, which becomes 256 pi. Okay, so if the circumference is 5 pi, well, 2 pi r equals 5 pi. Right, that's the circumference formula, so just divide both sides by 2 pi, and we get r equals 5 over 2, which is 2.5. If the circumference is 24, so again, we set it equal to the circumference formula, divide both sides by 2 pi. So r equals 12 over pi, but then we want the diameter, so the diameter would be double that. So 12 over pi times 2 would lead to 24 over pi. Okay, if the diameter is 5.5, well, we know the circumference is 2 pi r, but 2 times r is the diameter, so we could also say pi times diameter. So if the diameter is 5.5, then the circumference is just that diameter times pi. Okay, if the circumference is 12 pi, what's the area? Well, let's try to get the radius. So if circumference 2 pi r equals 12 pi, so radius would be 6. So then area equals pi r squared, so 36 pi, whatever the units are, squared. Okay, length of ROT is 116. What's the radius of the circle? So we know that the full circumference times, well, if this is 120, then the other direction is 360 minus 120, or 240. Right, this distance, the major arc is 240 degrees. Okay, so let's do some simplifying. 240 over 360 reduces to 2/3. Okay, so let's just multiply both sides by 3 to get rid of this denominator. So now I'm at, oh, this cancels out. So I'm at 4 pi r equals 48 pi. Divide both sides by 4 pi. And get r equals 12. And the units are meters. Okay, length of AB. So I'm given the radius, so I can get the full circumference. And then AB is 120 degrees out of the full 360. So 12 pi times 1/3 would be 4 pi. Okay, circumference is 24 pi and CD is 60 degrees. So what's the length? Well, this time they were nice enough to give us the circumference already. Times 60 degrees out of the full 360, which reduces to 1/6. So 4 pi, and the units this time are given as meters. Okay, length of xy is 14 pi. Okay, well, I know that 80 degrees as an inscribed angle means the intercepted arc is 160 degrees. Okay, so whatever the circumference is, when I multiply it by 160 degrees out of 360 degrees, that equals 14 pi. So let's do some simplifying. 160 over 360 can reduce to 16 over 36, which can be reduced to 4 over 9. Okay, so let's see, that's 8 pi r over 9. And then let's multiply both sides by 9. Okay, let's see, 14 times 9, 126. And then divide both sides by 8 pi. Okay, so what's 126 divided by 8? So R is 15.75, but we were asked for the diameter, so just double that. 31.5, and the units aren't asked for. Okay, calculate the area of the sector. Okay, so the full area would be pi r squared, but then we only have 240 out of the full 360 degrees. Okay, so this is 2/3. So 256 pi times 2/3 would be 512 pi over 3 feet squared. Okay, what's the length of AB plus CD if the radius is 12? Okay, so AB is intercepted by the inscribed angle 22.5, so double 22.5 would be 45 degrees. And then CD, well, let's use this triangle to get angle DAC. So we've got a triangle, starts with 180, we use up 105, we use up another 22.5. So that leaves 52.5 degrees. Let's use a different color. So then this angle cuts off CD. So CD is 105 degrees. Okay, so put together AB plus CD is 45 plus 105 degrees, which means 150 degrees total. Okay, and then we're talking about length, so circumference, so 2 pi r, so 2 pi 12. Okay, so that's 24 pi times, this reduces to 5 over 12. Okay, so then we get 10 pi. Okay, if the area is 256 pi meters squared, what's the circumference? Okay, area equals, pi r squared. So in this case, 256 pi equals pi r squared. Okay, so we can ignore the pi's or cancel them out. So square root of 256, radius has to be positive, so radius is 16. Circumference is 2 pi r, which in this case is 2 pi 16, which is 32 pi. And circumference is a distance, so meters. Okay, length of TV is 12 pi, and then 80 degrees inscribed angle means that the intercepted arc is 160 degrees. Okay, so when you do the full circumference and multiply it by 160 degrees out of 360, that would equal TV. Okay, so let's see, 160 over 360 can reduce to 4 over 9. Okay, so 8 pi r over 9 equals 12 pi. Pi r equals 108 pi. Divide both sides by 8 pi. Okay, so let's see, 108 divided by 8. So this means the radius is 13.5. but then we want the diameter, so just double it. So you get 27 inches. Okay, let's see, shaded area is 120 pi, and the radius is 24. So the full area would be pi r squared. But then when we multiply it by an unknown amount of degrees out of 360, we only have 120 pi. Okay, so let's see, 24 squared. Okay, so let's divide pi out of both sides so we can get rid of that. Okay, so let's see. I'll multiply the 360 over. And then finally divide both sides by 576. Okay, so I get 75. Okay, shaded area is 12 pi. What's the radius? Okay, so if it were a full circle, it'd be pi r squared. We multiply by 120 degrees out of 360 degrees, and that leads to the sector area of 12 pi. Okay, so we reduce this. Let's multiply both sides by 3 to get rid of the denominator. Divide both sides by pi, and then r squared equals 36, so just square root. Since radius has to be positive, we only consider the positive solution. Okay, solve for the chord JL, that's the whole thing, not just x. Okay, well, let's find x first. We know that when two chords intersect, the product of their pieces is equal. So 5 times 12 equals 10 times x. Okay, so that means that 60 equals 10x. So x equals 6. But again, since they asked for JL, then JL would be 6 plus 10, so 16. Okay, so finally, let's see, we're asked to find x over here. Well, we're given that this big arc is 232, so a full circle is 360. So this leftover arc is 128. Well, the only thing we know about circumscribed angles is their relationship to central angles. So even though it's not given to us, we can just draw it in. Okay, so this is a central angle, and central angles are equal to their intercepted arc. Okay, and then finally, circumscribed angles and central angles together add up to 180 degrees. So 180 minus 128 means that x is 52 degrees.